I would love to see politics fade out.
Yeah, but I mean, politics is micro and macro, right? So it's small and big. You have politics in your own house.
Correct. And what we're doing, though, is we are focusing so much on the macro to the detriment of the micro.
So I agree there. But the thing is that, okay, so let's look at the micro. Mm-hmm. So if we look at tradition is the exercise of experiments that worked, right? That's why it's traditional. These are experiments. They worked over and over and over and over again. That's what tradition is, right? That's why they're still running with fucking bulls in Spain.
Like a scientific process.
Because this was something which has
People
worked.
Likes it.
Yeah, it's worked.
But the thing is...
So hang on.
Okay.
I'm almost done. It's worked. As insane as it seems to us, it's worked. Mm-hmm. So we keep them intact. On the micro, though, in the family, you know what's really worked really well for the family? Mom at home, dad working, single income, you can raise the family
Right, but
on.
the thing is, think about it, Andrew. We don't live in the same times. Our government with the taxation and stuff is not making it a safe environment right now for one man to even support a family. They're forcing us with tax increases and expensive housing prices and grocery prices. You have to have two incomes coming in.
But I would postulate that if women were retracted from the political process tomorrow, that 90% of those issues would go away within the first year.
Yes. So I think that we can agree on this. If we created a societal structure where women were valued in the home again, rather than feeling pressured, societal pressure to go out and enter the workforce and become taxpayers, because literally the issue of everything, all of world problems, is stemming from childhood trauma, from children not having a sympathetic mother there.
Stemming from that, but I'm looking at the solution regardless. So even if this solution helped you with that, which it seems like it would, you should still be advocating for that solution, right? But how does being sexually provocative, having an OnlyFans, kind of saying things like this are liberating? How in the world does that help move people past this?
Well, for me, I can't speak to everybody because everybody's sexuality is expressed in a certain way based on where they're at. For me, for example, I came from deep purity culture on one hand, but also my dad being a pedophile and sex trafficking.
Southern Baptists aren't Puritans. They can drink. They can do all kinds of shit.
No, but I was in the purity culture of celibacy. So on the one hand, I had my dad indoctrinating me that I was to be a sex worker. That was the only way I was going to make it in life. He would take me to bars from an early age and...
Yeah, I can't get into that, yeah. But, okay, I get it. I understand that there was exploitation in your early...
Right, so you have to understand.
But even then...
You're not listening.
But I am listening. I just want to ask a question, and then I'm going to listen to everything you say as the answer. If it is true that there was an exploitation, right, which created this trauma vacuum for you, which then is why you became promiscuous later in life... Mm-hmm. I thought that your whole thing was dealing with and getting rid of those traumas.
Right. So you have to understand with these extreme traumas, primarily coming from a sexual wound from a parent, that's the most extreme form of trauma that a human can endure, spiritually, psychologically, emotionally. Okay, so the only way to actually heal from that is to what is called reanimate the trauma. But what you need to do is do it under your terms. So that's why I had to get into kink and BDSM. So conscious kink and BDSM, meaning bondage.
Yeah, I know what it is.
Okay, so that is actually a very powerful healing modality for these most intense, extreme sexual traumas, which I faced. Normal, you could say tame, textbook psychological processes don't touch that depth of trauma. You literally have to transmute it, or you have to essentially... you have to take what was so traumatic and painful and unspeakable, and you have to allow your body to turn it into a point of pleasure for you. That is literally the only way that I have seen that anybody can actually heal from these extensive traumas.
But that's how grooming works.
Well,
literally.
What do you mean?
Well, because the idea here is like, inside of, let's say... certain churches, priests have predilections towards people on the young end, right? Mm-hmm. But the thing is that they're trying to make the association of this activity being pleasurable for you. That's why so many of them end up going after same sex later in life and repeating the pattern, is because that they're kind of making the association with the pleasure.
So Brian, they're repeating the pattern because they're not owning it and then taking it into an appropriate context consciously. So the way that
but you would be doing the opposite.
Okay, so hear me out. Let's use the priest as an example. Let's use a priest who is actually a pedophile and who is abusing younger kids. The only way to heal from that depth of depravity, we could call it, the only way to heal that is that man needs to admit that is now part of his sexuality. So if this is part of my sexuality, how can I
end up
just a minute,
they end up repeating the cycle.
No, you're not listening. They need to
That's 'cause
admit
you're wrong
they
on
need
this.
to admit to themselves the energetics. What is it about this little boy that turns me on? They need to get to
All right.
about
We
it.
got to move off the topic. But the thing is, we have to, because I'd love to get into this more, though, but we do have to move off on it. I'm just going to say this last thing. I'll let you give your last point, too, right? What you're saying is the opposite. You're saying that if you make the association of pleasure, that is definitionally grooming, is making the association of pleasure to move towards an activity which you would not ordinarily do. That's part of the brainwashing. Hang on. That's part of the brainwashing technique for that. And by the way, the social sciences are very clear on that. And that's why so many people, young men especially, who've had this happen to them, end up doing it themselves to other people.
No, the reason they're doing it is because they're never owning that there was part of that they enjoyed.
No.
Once they admit
Bullshit.
there was part of it they enjoyed, and then they I'm telling you literally the process of how to heal this. Remember.
You haven't healed it in you.
I have.
You haven't. You just got done telling me you're still experiencing the same exact type of trauma.
But listen, I no longer let the trauma create an chronic condition. So traumas are going to be coming at us constantly, okay? I have exposed myself to being an influencer, having attacks, being out there with myself. And so obviously I'm going to have these attacks and acute traumas coming at me. I have learned through my sexuality, through conscious kink, BDSM, through being able to express my exhibitionism, to be seen in that way, and to be allowed to just be a sexual being. That is my healing, because otherwise I would go out there. When I still had my rape trauma response,
hang on. We're done with
unconsciously-
this. We gotta move the combo on. I understand that you're not trying to use the words maliciously. You don't understand how stringent the terms of service are for these types of video streaming services. They just don't want this kind of stuff talked about. So I have to move it on.
Okay.
Trust me, I much prefer to just dive into it, but we can't.
So I'm hoping we can perhaps find something to actually engage on here. So, I mean, you mentioned something in your messages about ethical extortion.
Yeah. What's your question?
Is that something that you engage in?
Give me your definition of extortion.
It's of extortion.
Yeah.
Well, you use the term ethical extortion.
But what does the word extortion
why
mean to
does
you?
my definition matter here?
Well, so that way I can make sure that I explain it in a way that you understand, so that we're using the same
right, but
word.
it's a word you used. Why don't you tell me your definition?
Okay, so extortion is easiest way to describe it is a blackmail situation, right? So you do this or you're going to have this consequence. Mm-hmm. Now, unethical extortion is when you have no right to take what it is you're blackmailing that person to get, right? So it's their intellectual property, their money, their whatever, and they're entitled to that. And there is nothing in the spiritual realm or moral realm or legal realm that would make you entitled to have that. So if you do anything to take that from them, that is unethical extortion. But what an ethical extortion is, for example, if a man comes to my residence and breaks in my home, and I hold a gun to his head and I say, "Get out of my house," or "I'm going to shoot you," that's ethical extortion, because I am commanding him to do something, and if he doesn't, I am going to hold him accountable to suffering the consequences of that action.
Yeah,
and that is ethical.
But that wouldn't be extortion.
But that is what I'm talking about when I'm saying ethical extortion. It is simply holding people accountable, and as a person to person, executing judgment on them, because it's something that you're so sure is right before God, you're just willing to do it. And if you were in the wrong, you're willing to suffer legal consequences, meaning you're so sure that that person deserves to die. You
mean
tell
in the
them.
case of your home being broken in?
Well, any case where you have been wronged.
Do you think that Brian deserves to be unalived?
There were his moments.
I mean, do you think honestly he deserves that?
Honestly, I can't tell what's in Brian's heart and soul. So
No, I mean, what do you think? Do you think he deserves it?
only time will tell.
Yeah, but what do you think right now?
From what I can see,
Do I deserve it? I mean, for sure I deserve it, right?
well, if we're just talking of what I know of you two up until this point,
Sure.
nothing in the future,
Nothing in the future.
I would say you are contributing to more brokenness than healing. And thus, I would rather you not be here, yes.
Okay. So if that's the case, if you have declared, much like the burglar, to intend to do us harm, then aren't we engaging in ethical, what was the word you used? Extortion.
Correct.
Aren't we engaging in ethical extortion by basically saying, well, now you do this or else, because you're basically threatening to do everything in the world to us, including leading us down a road to being unalived if necessary, because you think we're doing more harm than good. Wouldn't Brian then be the one who is conducting ethical extortion if he fought back against that?
He can try, because
But
ethical...
I mean, wouldn't he be?
Here's the thing with ethical extortion. It literally only works if you're right, if you are in the right.
Like when somebody declares that they're going to try to do everything they can to destroy your life to the point that you unalive yourself, don't you think that from their perspective they would say, since you've made that declaration, now anything I do back to you is justified?
Again, you can try it, but if
That's
it
not
wasn't...
my question. My question isn't whether or not you can try it. Of course, you could try anything. My question is from the perception of the person you're declaring that to. Would it not then, from their perspective, be reasonable to say, wait, if that's what you want to do to me, then any defense mode I have back, you deserve it?
They would think that. I would think that they would think that.
Aren't you
Yeah.
perpetuating, and this is why Christianity, by the way, superior to your worldview, aren't you perpetuating the very same value which you're accusing the other person of violating?
Yes, and it's called eye for an eye. You reap what you sow. And so I don't believe anything would come of unethical extortion towards a person using ethical extortion. If I actually wronged you in a way that was not compensatory to how you had wronged me, shit's not going to go well for me. It would go well for you.
Then if it's true that you reap what you sow, if you utilize eye for an eye against a person, they snatch your eye, then you snatch theirs. So then therefore they go and they snatch your this, and so you take out this. Isn't the entire purpose of breaking the cycle of you reap what you sow actually meaning this? That if somebody attacks you and you're forgiving towards that person and walk away from it, you are then reaping that down the road that people will be forgiving towards you.
The thing is each of us as adults have the responsibility to hold other adults accountable when it
By
comes
what
to
moral standard?
When it comes to the harm of children. It's just a God-given responsibility. If you don't have it, you're not from God.
What
then.
moral standard are you appealing to? What God? The God
God
that you,
of
the God that
creation.
thinks you should be a sex worker? That's not the
By
God
the
I
way,
worship.
The God of creation
Uh-huh.
is a lot bigger than your ideology of it.
Well, what is it? You don't even know what my ideology is or what I think the God of creation is.
You just told me that God would never endorse sex work.
No, well, yeah, that's true. He wouldn't. But I mean, that's very clear that he wouldn't.
How is it very clear?
because he gives a commandment about coveting, and he
What-
also gives a commandment about adultering.
How did Mary get pregnant?
It was through divinity.
So God fucked her.
No, God didn't fuck her. I'm sorry, did God fuck the earth to make Adam too?
Basically.
Basically, or yes?
Over a long evolutionary process, yes.
Oh, okay, so no. So the answer is no.
No, the answer is yes.
No, well, the answer would be no, because that's not
Well, the
fucking
answer is
anything.
yes.
How? How is that sex?
Fucking something infers penetrating. Penetrating one thing that is structural and able to penetrate is then penetrating something else.
Yeah, you're just using the word penetrating a lot, but not telling me how this is sex.
Sex
how
is
did God
penetration.
have sex with the earth, which led to evolution?
Because the consciousness of God penetrated physical matter.
So all sex is to you is penetration?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So I just had sex? Fucking brilliant. Gonna go have a smoke now.
Okay.
Now that I've had sex.
He did penetrate that piece of paper. A bit of a one pump chump, but he did penetrate the piece of paper. I do want to come back to, so you said eye for an eye, and you said that you think it would be better if me and Andrew were not around, to put it lightly. And so you feel that's warranted because why?
Well, like I said, I believe up until this point of what I know of you and I know of your platform, I believe you are, in a sense, doing more harm than good. Simple as that.
And so for this reason, you believe that me and Andrew should be assassinated?
Or just not exist anymore, because what's the point of you being here if you're not helping heal, and you're not contributing any solutions to society? Literally, why are you here? I don't understand. What is your point?
What makes you judge, jury, and executioner when it comes to determining the value which we provide
God.
to society?
I'm
Are
observing.
you God?
I'm an incarnation of God,
I
yes.
wish Andrew was here. You are God.
You could be too, if you were actually doing what God made you to do, which is protect and serve women and children.
My job is not to protect and
It actually
serve
is. That is your
women.
divine calling, and you're not
No,
doing
it's
it.
not.
So therefore, you're not in alignment with
Did you learn
source.
that at St. Baptist? What was it, the Baptist, or what was the...
No, I learned that from life.
Well, you said God. The Christian God, which God are we referring to?
The God of life, the creator of life,
Okay.
the cosmos,
Unhinged.
and the biological matter.
So you feel that it is warranted then that me and Andrew are deleted because we hurt your feelings?
No, it's because I can't see you making any positive contribution to society. Maybe Andrew's different because at least he's, I'm assuming, financially supporting a woman and child.
So you can only contribute to society as a man if you're financially supporting women?
You can only contribute to society as a man if you are serving and protecting women and children. If you are not serving and protecting women and children, then you are failing at your calling as a man. You're failing at your primary basic calling as a man is literally to serve and protect women. If any woman is coming into your presence and you are genuinely having the mindset and the intention to protect her and serve her, a woman feels that, Brian. We feel it. So if we don't feel it, then therefore you're not serving and protecting us, and I don't see the point of your existence, because if you're not serving and protecting, you basically turn into a predator.
That is the most man-hating and misandrous thing I've ever heard, that if a man is not serving women, that he is a predator, that he is useless. On its face, that is, like I said, one of the most man-hating, misandrous things I've ever heard on the show. Again, though, so because you think or you feel that we've hurt your feelings and perhaps the feelings of other people, you think that eye for an eye, that violence can be done upon me and Andrew on this basis alone.
It's nothing to do with my feelings as an individual. It's everything to do with the environment of hostility that you are promoting on your platform. I believe it's very dangerous to society right now, especially right now.
How is it dangerous
These minds
to
are
society?
not, the minds that we have in this generation are not the same as your mind and my mind when we were growing up.
Do you think porn is good or bad for society?
I think that unconscious, addictive, fake, like acting, porn is very toxic to society.
You produce porn.
I show my genuine, authentic sexuality. So
You
I'm
mean
not
porn?
faking anything. I am not, I am literally expressing.
You twerk on your Instagram. You twerk on your Instagram.
What
How
is-
is that authentic and genuine? And you're, I mean, there's
Twerking
nothing.
is a form of dance.
Yeah, there is nothing authentic and genuine about the porn that you're producing.
Have you watched my porn?
No, I have not, but I mean, I've seen your Instagram, and it's absolutely degenerate.
What makes it degenerate?
You just look at it, and it's just degenerate.
In your opinion.
Okay.
There's
Then in
many
Europe-
people that
then
don't
in-
share that opinion.
Right, but despite your conduct and grievances and misconduct, I don't think you should be unalived for it. But you seem to think that because people hurt your feelings, they should be
Incorrect.
physically, violently
Incorrect.
attacked.
Incorrect.
You literally said it.
I didn't say it
Rewind
was
the
my
tape.
feelings. I said it was because, again, I'll say it for the third time because it's not landing for you, obviously. I said it's because I believe, as a mother, as a social scientist, as a healer, that what I see you propagating on your platform is extremely detrimental to the society that we are currently operating in. These kids didn't grow up with the ideologies that Andrew did or you did. How old are you?
How is that relevant?
I need to know your generation so I know what ideology you came in with.
35.
Okay, 35 and 40, these fucking kids do not have the brains you guys do. They can't handle this shit.
We have women of all ages on the show.
But you have to understand that your primary male audience is probably aged 18 to 25. I studied that.
No, actually, I mean, looking at our YouTube analytics, I believe the age range is 25 to 34. The primary male audience is 25 to 34.
Well, let's say you have 10% who are in the younger generation.
Sure.
Who literally,
Probably do.
the propaganda and the brainwash and the
Power.
lack of being able to at all handle a trigger. Okay?
Wait, I'm triggering the male audience?
I'm saying these young ones cannot handle this shit that you guys are
They can't
propagating.
handle words.
They can't
They
handle.
can't handle words.
They don't know how to critically think anymore. So when you guys promote something and you are guys
We have a
that they look up
dating
to,
podcast. We talk about dating, and sometimes it gets about culture war and political stuff, but mostly about dating. And we talk, like I said, culture
Andrew
war, political stuff,
or Brian,
feminism.
are you trying to argue or do you want to know why I am telling you I wouldn't mind if you disappeared? That's what I'm trying to get at. It's not something you can argue with. That is why I'm telling you I would rather.
I mean, you're honestly like,
It's your truth.
you're a despicable person, to be honest.
Okay.
I mean, to
well,
say that you'd rather somebody, even the, there's no person who's come on the show, and there's plenty of women who have done malicious things on the show. I don't wish any of them.
because they're
Despite-
pussies.
despite
They're
how-
pussies.
hold on, let me-
Nobody
no, 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 you gotta
understands.
let me finish. You
When
gotta
you're
let
a
me finish.
fucking parent and you have children that you are literally watching day in and day out.
Concealed man
get
donated $100.
hurt.
You're allowing this psychotic degenerate woman to have her way all on you. She says she's a mother and yet she wishes death upon you. This is the exact reason why her child should be taken away. 911.
Thank you, Concealed Man. Again, really quick, we've had a lot of women on the show. Some of them have not conducted themselves properly. I don't wish harm, any sort of physical harm or death on any of them. But because me and Andrew hurt your fifis, we hurt your feelings.
I'll say it for
You're
the
insane.
fourth time.
You're insane.
It's nothing to do with my personal feelings.
It has everything to do with your
But I
personal
was looking at
feelings.
it from the perspective of a social scientist who is literally studying what the fuck is going wrong with these kids, because it's not okay
And
right
you think-
now.
And you think that's...
No, you said he couldn't argue with your truth. That is your feelings. It can't be the truth.
Fine, if you want to call it my feelings based in the fucking science right now, sure. Based on the fucking statistics.
And I could just...
The statistics aren't telling. Science can't give you odds.
The statistics are saying
science is
psychopaths are getting younger and younger.
But it doesn't tell you what you ought to do with that information. Is claims are not ought claims. You saying science backs up my ought. Science can't back up your ought. Ought claims are not made scientifically. Those are just is claims.
Why
this is
should
true.
you be allowed to live? What are you contributing?
This is true. This is true.
What are you contributing to society?
I have contributed to the next generation and still am.
How?
What are you talking about?
What are
Because
you
I'm still
contributing?
raising it.
How are you raising them?
I have fucking children, lady.
Are they allowed to twerk if they want?
No, of course not. Of course not.
So your children have
Are your
to
children
act.
allowed to get mogred on their face like you do in your pics? Is your child allowed to go suck a dick right now? Or is mommy going to pat him on the head and say, "Good job, sweetheart"?
Listen,
Answer the question. I just answered
if
yours.
that
No.
is genuinely where my children were at in their development and they were ready to take on those expressions of their personal sexuality, I would do everything I could to make
The
sure
Truth donated
that they were supported
$100.
in making
What's the
healthy
difference
decisions
between
for
Desiree
themselves.
and a battery? At least a battery has a positive side.
So the answer is yes. I'm sorry that I won't let my my
I don't
daughters,
believe-
Don't say it, don't
my
say it,
daughters
don't say it.
twerk. I'm sorry I won't let
I
them
don't
twerk.
believe that children were born to be indoctrinated by the belief systems of their parents. I believe
Yeah, let's get
that
into
every
that.
child was born
let's
with their
stick on
own
the-
thought processes, their own giftings, their own callings in life. And when you
just have a simple
when you
question.
impose
Yes,
made
simple
up
question.
morals based on a certain cultural
Made up
ideology, I believe that's child abuse.
Don't you believe all morals are made up?
I believe, yes,
Well, then
morals
what are
are
you talking
man-made,
about?
but there is a code of ethics that we should be born
Which is
in with.
man-made also?
No, ethics are coming from God.
Oh, so okay. So your ethics come from God.
Correct.
Do you believe that everybody should follow the ethics of this God you believe in?
I do.
Okay. So how do you get them to follow those ethics if they're doing the wrong thing for your God?
Here's the thing.
No.
The wrong
no.
stuff sorts
You
out
gotta answer
when-
my question here.
What is your question?
So here's what I'm asking you specifically. Morality is just a human construct. However, the morals which you get from your God are objective. And because they're objective, everybody ought to follow them. Ought to, right? Everybody should, or they're doing something wrong, right?
I honestly, I don't understand what you're asking.
When your God tells you what is moral, this God that you worship,
Well, my God is more like here.
you're the God?
I'm embodying God.
Okay, you're embodying God. Got it. So you're God?
Correct.
Okay, so if you're God, then everything you say is what's moral?
Well, remember I said I am not going with morals. I'm going with ethics.
Okay,
There's a
so
difference.
everything you say is ethical.
Yes, I believe it is.
Okay, and are you going to teach your children that?
Yes, that's what I teach them.
Then you're fucking indoctrinating children.
But here's the thing.
Oh, here's the
I
thing.
always give them multiple ways to look at
That's
things.
really weird. If your ethical system is correct and it is morally objective, and you tell your kids not to follow it, then you're telling them to be immoral by your own standard.
Okay. I think that you have gotten to the point where you don't want to understand what I'm saying.
Oh, no. I understand completely. In fact, I'm going to
W,
steel man it for
Jessica.
you. Here's what you just said. I am God. Everything which I say is ethical. Great. So is all things moral come from you? I think they do. Do you teach your children that system? Yes. Great. That means that you are teaching your children what are, from your perspective, objective morals. But you also
False.
allow them to move towards
False.
other systems. If
False.
that is the case, then you're allowing them to move towards immoral systems.
False.
Okay.
I am not imposing a moral code onto my children.
But shouldn't you be if that is what's is moral?
No, I am allowing my children to discover the truth of their own being, because I believe that the ethics that are God-given are embedded in the truth of who we are born being. And if you fuck with that by
Since you're God, can you give me your 10 commandments?
the same 10 commandments that are in the Bible.
The same? That I should have no God above you?
Well, no, the 10 commandments, you want me to make up a 10
An
commandments?
undonated
Yeah,
I have
$100.
5.
In the early modern period, from about 1400 to 1775, about 100,000 people were prosecuted for witchcraft in Europe and British America.
That's because they were conducting abortions. So over here to this, though, yeah, give me your 5. What are your 5 commandments from God?
Actually, I think I wrote it in here. Just a sec.
God can't remember her commandments?
I have a lot in here. Trust me.
God is not omnipotent and omniscient?
Well, not when being attacked, per se.
God can't handle attacks?
He can, but it's
Into
slower.
the mic.
God doesn't know he's supposed to talk in the mic?
God's not human.
You said you're God.
I'm an embodiment of God, meaning this body system, little constricted into this,
Yeah.
God's trying to move through me. Now, I still have some restriction
Yeah.
because I'm in this human form.
Okay, so God is an external being.
God is life itself.
Yeah, so God is life. Would that make me God?
Only if you are embodying life force energy. I see you trying to stuff and deny a lot of your life force energy
That doesn't
and argue
mean
with God.
anything.
And argue with God.
But if I'm God, then shouldn't I be able to do that if I want to? And
Well,
isn't
here's
that
the
good?
thing. Here's the thing. Everybody has the opportunity to embody God. That doesn't mean everybody does it. And slowly over time, I notice around
That
age
sounds like an
35.
objective standard.
I notice by age 35, if you have denied your authentic self that you were born to be for 33, 34, 35 years, I believe at that point, you have literally reprogrammed your own brain to follow the morals or the trends or the constructs of the time rather than who you were actually born to be, which might be a
It's the
fucking
same
freak.
thing you're teaching your
Nabu
children.
donated $100. If your children listened to your ethical worldview and came to the conclusion that God says they should follow the way Andrew and Brian live, would you also wish your own children no longer existed?
Fantastic question.
Desiree, this
Say it
is
again.
If your children decided to live the same way that me and Brian live, by your standard, wouldn't you have to wish that they weren't in existence?
Yeah, if they were to your ages, 35, and they were still propagating this, and I saw no hope that they were going to get it, yes, I would wish them not to be here anymore.
Okay. For the high crime of disagreeing with Mama?
No, for not creating a healthy environment on the earth, which is the only reason
I think
humans
we're the
are
only
here.
ones creating it. I think that you're stifling a healthy environment for any human being on planet Earth, personally. But
Okay, so I'll just try to think of it off the top of my head. So essentially, I believe that the code of ethics basically come down to this.
Okay.
When we're thinking of anything we're going to do, okay, we need to, now assuming the person is not a psychopath. The psychopaths are those few people born just
why would it matter if they were psychopathic?
because if they're psychopathic, they don't have the emotional structures for this to work. It doesn't work on them.
But they still would need to follow the ethical code, right?
You could teach them cognitively how to do it. You could,
I mean, you would hold them to the standard of this ethical code. That's all I'm asking.
well, yes, we
Okay,
should.
that's
and
all
if they
that's-
weren't able to
then that's all I'm wondering.
cognitively
So what
follow
is
it,
the
you
ethical
should take
code?
them out. Okay, so essentially, with everything you're thinking of doing, you want to ask yourself these 5 questions. And if you can't say yes to all 5 of these questions, you're not making an ethical choice. Okay, so number 1, does the idea of doing this or choosing this, does it give me a greater sense of aliveness? Do I feel more alive when I think of making that choice? Right? Okay, so that's the first one. Second one, is there good in this for other people? So meaning, is it basically like a win-win situation? It's good for me and it's good for other people. Okay. Number 3. Now, and I want to preface to say, good doesn't necessarily mean that somebody else is going to like it.
Okay. What's 3?
Okay. So number 3 is, does it align with my core values? Okay, so that core values is going to imply that you have gotten to know yourself. Okay, so for example, some people are just naturally super into like animal rights, and that's very important to them. Some people have kids and obviously
Roth_PSA donated $100. This whole podcast should be a course on Debate University on how to engage with people and keep a conversation going while getting no real answers to your questions.
Appreciate the super chat. What's 4?
Okay, and then...
Because, these are real answers. What's 4?
I'm trying to remember. 4 is, do you need help from a higher power to achieve this? Meaning the higher power could be your idea of God, but it also could be a teacher, a parent, an elder, a therapist. Just do I need to expand myself and ask for help to do this?
And then what's 5?
And then 5 would be...
Almost done, Brian.
Sorry, it's hard to come up with that on the spot. 5 would be... Does it require that I grow? Basically meaning, does it take me outside my comfort zone?
Okay. Require
yes.
I grow.
So if everything that you do, I believe, and you get quick at doing this when it becomes embedded in who you are, but everything you're doing, you want to run through those things, and you want to say yes to all of it. If you can't say yes to all of it, you need to keep tweaking your plan because there's a better way to do it.
I just want to let you know, by your 5 commandments, Brian is one of the most ethical men I've ever met. So
okay, well then he would have nothing to worry about.
Start with, does this make me more alive? Yeah. So every single time Brian does this podcast, and according to the conversations I've had with him afterwards, he definitely is having fun. He's definitely getting into the spirit of things. That's definitely part of this idea of aliveness you've described. Is there's good in this? Definitely. He receives hundreds of DMs from men all over the world saying, thank you for this. This has been great. It's been eye-opening. It's been very helpful to me. 3, does it align with my values? Most certainly aligns with Brian's values. His value of trying to do 1 and 2, in fact, would align with those values. He says, do I need help from a higher power? Very interesting way to phrase it, as Brian has been moving towards religiosity lately. Isn't that interesting? Because of this podcast, in fact, does it require that he grows? Absolutely. And you can see from the growth of his channel, you can see from the growth of him as a person when he first started to write now. So according to this, Brian, the man you want to unalive by your own commandments, is following your ethical system to the letter.
Okay, well then he has nothing to worry about.
But why should he worry about something from you when he's following your ethical code?
Well, you're telling him he doesn't need to worry, so just tell him he doesn't need to worry. No, I'm asking you why he should worry if he's following your ethical code. What standard could you hold him immoral if this is your ethical code? Because I believe his higher power isn't quite as high as he thinks it is.
But he's following your ethical code.
Right, but his higher power isn't the correct one.
Oh. So he's got the wrong God.
PLSSS donated $100.
And because you're
Cliff
God.
Notes. Diabolical hedonism. Good lesson next.
Yeah.
I'm going to go get more.
Thank you, Chuck.
I'm good.
No, if you want to keep going on that, I thought that was fantastic.
Yeah, so,
actually. Well, she's getting up.
Yeah.
Okay. Lip gloss.
Yes, I don't really understand when you say higher power, what higher power are you referencing that he doesn't follow that you follow? I don't get that.
Well, I suppose we'll wait until she's back. We do have a message here. Maddie, can you read it?
People have an inability to understand that their sense of right is subjective. No human on earth has the ability to be all right, all knowing. That's why we have voting. Brandrew protect women and children by conserving true masculine values in modern hell.
So anyway, so
Thank you,
Brian, you say he's not the embodiment of these values because of 4. Do you need help? But you didn't frame 4 as a specific God. In fact, you framed 4, and I took a cliff note here, as you could be appealing to X, you could be appealing to Y, you could be appealing to Z. You didn't say you had to appeal to your specific God. It's interesting that you changed the answer to now it has to be your specific God when we use your own value judgment and realize that Brian is living up to the very ethical standards you demand he lives up to.
So you posed the question in a little bit more of an understandable way before this, when I was going to get my lip gloss. You had said, well, then who is that God? And I would say the God is the God of authenticity. So the only reason I'm saying that Andrew has basically veered course, even if he's following all those things, I don't believe that this platform and what I see the undertones of it propagating, the subculture, you could say, I don't see the subculture being coming from your authentic self.
So I don't understand. This is really weird because all of these things which you have given us are a subjective metric. And as I went through each one of them, you couldn't give me a single disagreement for how he's not following everyone on, especially when you initially gave us the "Do you need help?" which is a question as part of the commandment, and then if you do, you reach out to XYZ. You even gave an example of something which is a higher power but not God.
You have to, essentially, if this choice that you're going to make, if that choice doesn't require that you basically tune in to a higher guidance, whether that higher guidance comes from your own prayer and meditation, whether it comes from you take a training course from somebody more expert in that area, wherever it comes from, talking to your grandma about life lessons, whatever resonates for you. But essentially, that ensures that you're having the accountability to have somebody check you. Because essentially you're checking in with somebody, something that you think.
How could you be held to more of an account than already following each one of these commandments, actually allowing your accuser to face you, giving the accuser a platform in front of thousands in which to face you down, and following the ethical system provided by the accuser to the letter? How in the world can you reconcile that Brian bad guy when he's doing all of the things on the list? When you're talking about accountability, for instance, being held accountable to the world in a way that you're not daily.
He's being held accountable in a way that I'm not? How do you figure?
Because Brian has tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people who tune in to ridicule every aspect of his life every single day. Across the entire world. This is not isolated to the United States. This is Canada, United States, Mexico, South American. This is all over Australia. There's probably motherfuckers in Antarctica, on some station in Antarctica.
Okay, this is
and
what
hang on, in a battleship somewhere who are sitting off the coast watching this fucking program and holding Brian accountable. I can't think of a man held to more of an account on the internet than Brian fucking Atlas, who is following all of your ethical systems. And then when you say the one problem you have is there's no way to hold him accountable, he's being held accountable by way more people than you are.
No, I didn't say that. I was simply saying, I was explaining the reason behind why that number was an accountability system, and that's why it's part of a code of ethics. That's all I was saying. I wasn't denying. And you know what? I want to say this. What I want to say is what I like about ethical extortion, as I called it, is my words will fall flat if you don't deserve what I'm saying. It wouldn't even. That's why I can
convenient.
have. No,
I can threaten you because the reason I can threaten you is because if I do threaten you and nothing happens, well, then you just didn't deserve it.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's very true.
That's very convenient, isn't it?
Well, you're doing the same thing to me.
How have I ever threatened you or said a word about you being unalived?
Okay, here's the thing. Your tone and the way that you degrade me and every thought I have
I deserve to die because of my tone.
It essentially is promoting the message to anybody who would resonate with that frequency of speaking to somebody. It's telling all of them,
Not
she's
to
a
take
piece of shit.
Yeah, not
She's
to
a
take
piece of shit. Don't listen to anything she says. She's useless. She's dumb. And by the way, anybody who at all reminds you of her, also don't listen to them.
Yeah, I would actually stand behind the idea that you are dumb and crazy and that nobody should ever listen to you. But I have good justifiable reasons for why I
And
think
that's
that,
fair. That's
which have
fair.
been demonstrated.
That's
The
fair.
idea that I'm not following your moral system is laughable. I hold myself to a way higher standard than what your ethical system is, and so does Brian. That's what's wild to me. And then it's like, okay, but what about being held to account? Not only is he held to account by tens and hundreds of thousands of people, but he's actually allowing you to confront him right now. How could you be held more accountable ever? And you know who disengaged, who didn't want to hold Brian Atlas to account? You. Because the second he had an opportunity to engage, and the second you thought, oh, wait, I might be wrong, you shut down, you started crying, you pouted, and you rage quit. Imagine you being the person who could finally hold someone to account who fell short of your ethical system, and when you get the opportunity, you just start bawling like a baby and rage quit.
I don't really believe that it's necessary for me to.
Wookie Mountain donated $200. I have listened to every episode of whatever. Followed politics for years, seen horrifying things in my own life. I have never seen or heard such delusional, horrifying BS in my life.
I just have to get a protein.
Yeah, no problem.